Podcast, the platform to spread knowledge on insurance innovation, digital disruptions, and entrepreneurship. Our website, insurtechstory.com, and we are available on Spotify, Apple, Google, and Amazon Music. Today, we will discuss on the topic, unraveling the customer experience behind shipping insurance. And for now, I'm delighted to welcome our guest, Dan Spittle, who is the Director of Sales at UPS Capital. Dan, a warm welcome to the show.
Thank you, Surya. Pleasure to be here.
Would you like to tell a bit about yourself, like your background and what brings you to insurance?
Yeah, sure. So, as Surya mentioned, my name's Dan Spitali, with UPS for quite some time, and most recently here in our financial service division of UPS Capital. Background is fairly consistent across operational roles, some different marketing roles, and of course some time in sales as well. And most recently, I currently head up our customer journey team here at UPS Capital, and really the emphasis of that team is the end-to-end life cycle of that journey with the customer, how we use that voice of customer to solve some of the pinch points in their journey, and then ultimately help them take that out to market as well.
Yep, that's very interesting, and I was just going to add that the future of insurance is getting so interesting, as well as how the entire landscape is shaping up, that not just the insurance companies, it's just traditional players are also getting in to actually solve the equation on how to wow the end user through the type of insurance products they offer. So it's kind of I was really happy to see that UPS being in the logistics industry since inception, and you are also trying a lot of effort that's into the insurance of this entire supply chain domain. So it's getting really interesting how the future looks like. Dan, to move on to the agenda for the day, before we start, out of curiosity, I just want to understand from your experience, when we talk about shipping insurance, right? And of course, we have seen how e-commerce and logistics have come up as, digital and internet evolution has started. So where do you see in the next 5 years this shipping insurance, going big, and why do you see that customer need to, have some, if not knowledge, at least, some sort of a kind of focus on this area, particularly for their products delivery and etc.
Yeah, the question is definitely intuitive, and that is where we're tracking to your summary. So, kind of anchoring back a little bit to seeing this from the logistics side of the business in previous roles in my 20 plus years at UPS, and seeing it morph, to your point, Surya, on how does the customer view shipping insurance today versus that as little as 12, 24, 36 months ago.
Yeah.
And it has changed drastically. So it's really twofold. So with shipping insurance, it kind of came out of the gate as an opportunity for the customer to ensure that they're being taken care of with a financial loss, whether that's with damage, whether that's with theft. However, the second half of this has started to take shape with the boom in e-commerce over the past 3 to 4 years, and that we have thousands of SMBs that every time a package shows up on a doorstep, it represents their brand image. So we're seeing brand reputation become equal parts with the financial aspect of shipping insurance, and what that package represents as it gets to that end consumer from these thousands of SMBs that are out there, and the opportunity for them to make the decisions they need to make for their business. In the event that something does happen, they have in front of them data to make those data-driven risk decisions in terms of will they insure, won't they insure, and actually more importantly, what does that even cover? For example, torch piracy. 260 million packages just in 2022 delivered that had some type of theft at or near the doorstep. That's up 50 million from the previous year. So you can see how the level of importance of making risk decisions with shipping insurance has changed immensely over the last 3 years.
Yep, yep. So, it's not just uh, what do you say? For example, in the United States, you might have the shipping insurance kind of more widely accepted, or at least the awareness is there. But in many of the geographies, you really do not count this as part of the real insurance value chain. If for example, if you in some of the South Asian nations, if you really ask them, they would really not consider to be as important, or perhaps some people might have not even heard of it. There are instances where you know shipping as I mean insurance in the shipping space is just considered when big corporates are involved, or particularly when they're uh, transferring goods, or transferring their manpower from one place to other, or anyone is moving or shifting their bases and taking heavy amount, or rather some luxury goods, or goods that is of high cost. The value is much higher. For example, it can be a vehicle, it can be a furniture, or so on and so forth. And that's where these is really considered. But it's interesting where small e-commerce items can also be covered, and why would people would like to do that. So that's going to be very interesting for us to understand. And with that, Dan, can you elaborate on the key challenges that customers often face when it comes to shipping insurance, and how do these challenges impact their overall experience with e-commerce and shipping as
Yeah,
a
so
service?
yeah, I mentioned porch piracy earlier. That has really that's become a focal point and a mainstay in a lot of the decision making that has taken place over the past 3 to 4 years. As it relates to shipping insurance, and it becomes very educational when you start looking at it holistically across the entire customer journey from a CX perspective. It becomes educational in that that end consumer is equal parts in terms of importance to that shipper of understanding what exactly their insurance is going to do for them. So the ability to connect that end consumer as well as the merchants and understand, well, really, what does porch piracy coverage mean? What happens when this happens to me? How quickly will you be able to pivot to make our customer whole? And you get back into that whole brand reputation of what that package represents. So it's very, very educational as it relates to that end-to-end journey from day zero to loyalty within the first 365 days of a customer life cycle, in that I now know that this coverage, this shipping insurance, is going to put me in a position to have the surety that if this is taken off my doorstep, if this is one of 260 million packages that goes missing via a porch piracy situation, that I am going to be covered, I am going to be made whole financially, and equal parts, I'm going to continue to drive my brand reputation as a result of how I responded to the problem that caused my end consumer.
Yeah. So, you mentioned about the merchants. Of course, in case of merchant, or, industrial goods and etc., this is something which is a common phenomenon. But how do you see it with the end consumers when they're, really the individuals, or for the B2C model, for instance?
Yeah, I think this is a great question, and we talk about it quite a bit here at UPS Capital. That end consumer is really the pot of gold in reference to understanding the true value chain of that experience, and the opportunity to be on platform with embedded insurance at the checkout cart that has a very simple UI, that has a frictionless user experience. All of that helps to make the decision making process for that end consumer who really, at the end of the day, all they know is that they want their package, and if they don't get it, what are you going to do to make me whole? That's what they go to market with, so to speak, and how they make their decisions. Well, the opportunity to bring it in cart, to make it simple, to make it frictionless, and the educational piece of understanding that when it does go missing, we're going to be able to respond quickly for you. That has been a game changer in connecting with that end consumer and kind of understanding their behaviors.
Yeah, yeah. That's quite interesting, of course. Talking about customer experience, how can shipping insurance be better integrated into the overall purchase process? And what strategies or innovations have you observed that successfully enhanced customer satisfaction and trust in this aspect? What's your thought?
Yeah, so I mentioned embedded insurance, and
Yeah,
that's part of it, right? But how do we get to a simple UI, a frictionless UX? Well, we do that through APIs,
yeah,
and also most recently low code type webhooks. So we have the opportunity very quickly with a click of a mouse um, to grab that customer information without them needing to do any extra thinking and or extra keystroking. That gives us, with the APIs, the opportunity to connect with a two-way type of dialogue from a connectivity perspective, or in some cases, depending on the platform of which the customer could be on, we're able to really simply implement a very low code within 10 to 15 minutes, the opportunity to get that information from the customer's platform and be able to provide them data back to make future decisions.
right. Yeah. So, talking about technology and innovation, how do you think digital transformation or emerging tech driven innovation influence the evolution of shipping insurance? And what roles does aspects like, uh, data analytics, advanced tracking, automation, etc., can enhance the overall customer experience within this context?
Yeah, so that is certainly the here and now, but even equally important, it is certainly where we're moving rapidly, right, across the
Yeah,
industry as a whole. As to your point earlier, certainly that the new players that are coming into the market, UPS Capital is roughly 21, 22 years old, and we've seen such an influx of competitors coming into the space. For example, when you start talking about data analytics, tracking, and monitoring, the opportunity through a product of which we now go into market with called Delivery Defense. This gives a proactive, with cloud-based data, proactive opportunity for that merchant to make a data-driven risk decision based on the zip code of which they're going. So with that, they have the opportunity to see a set of scores that come through as a result of the zip code that they're going to, for them to make the decision of, do they continue to go right to that consumer? Do they go to an alternate delivery site? Or do they decide that they have to have extra insurance on this product because of the propensity for something like porch piracy? So it's really the opportunity to get really, really upstream on this thing, to make data-driven decisions from a risk perspective that could potentially include insurance as well on the back end of that, but more importantly, the proactive side of understanding what's going on in their ecosystem before it even leaves their facility.
yeah, yeah. Interesting. And of course, I mean, people might not be aware of, and as you mentioned, what is the amount of loss that such kind of events actually cause to this industry, right? And of course, it's the merchant as well as the individual end users. So, my last question too, and this is again out of curiosity. This is a very interesting topic when we talk about logistics and insurance, right? And the entire role of technology in revamping this aspect of insurance into the supply chain journey. How do you see this in the coming years, as in with respect to how technology would play a role when we are constantly seeing the, various new add-ons to the, technologies that we have today? For example, we were just talking about artificial intelligence. Now we are just talking about generative AI, right? Now people primarily are just talking about it. It sounds fancy, but where is the real application? Where do you see this in this industry?
Yeah, you know, and I think this is a fantastic question. It's a fascinating question because it's so rapidly happening, like every day, and we see it with competitors, but we also hear it from our customers as well, which is, you know, the voice of customer is powerful in reference to what it is we learn from them and subsequently decide to do with it. So this does come down to the fundamentals of insurance. So when we start talking about the technology coming to the forefront in different connectivity vehicles, whether that be APIs or webhooks, or to your point, you know, generative AI, things to that nature, machine learning, it really does come down to driving the CX in terms of when something does happen. And that comes down to the fundamentals, the blocking and tackling of what does the policy structure mean for that customer that is using this technology to make data-driven decisions in the event that something happens. So A, will you pay my claim? B, how quickly will you pay my claim? C, how will you pay my claim from a digital payment perspective? So all of these technologies are just really amping up the game in reference to the expectation of that merchant and that end consumer from a CX perspective. And it becomes, how do we bottle all of that up while not losing and becoming short-sighted to what really matters most in this is the core fundamental of what the policy represents from a risk management perspective and how we ultimately execute that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, at the end of the day, what it matters is, how execution and application is being done. So it's being enough spoken about use cases and definitions and etc. strategies, but the real execution is what matters. Yeah, fantastic discussion, Dan. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and a true delight to have you as our guest.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity, and also always welcome and willing to come back on board. Let me know.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
absolutely. And last, to wrap this up, thank you for listening, and see you at our next episode. Take care and stay safe. Goodbye for now.